And I had my gun on me. And he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I read your book or the transcript and I was triggered by it. You were telling your truth in the book, so I want to tell you my truth." So he's like, "Sit down." And he tells me that him and his family have been part of the Mexican cartel. So I'm sitting there and I go like this.
Right. You're like,
I was
hold
going
on.
to kill him. I was going to kill him and have the government cover it up.
Yo, welcome back to another dope episode of the Winners Win podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jennings, and today I am joined with a very special guest, Miss Angelica Robles. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm great.
Thank you for making a trip down to sunny South Florida and
I'm
joining
always
us.
here. I'm in Miami probably like 3-4 times a year.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah. I try to make it out of here. I'm only here about 3-4 times a year myself. I'm just playing. So, man, we were talking a little bit before we started, and you were kind of just briefed me, and I told you that I have this weird thing, like when I shoot my podcast, so I purposefully don't look up too much info on my guests because I want to learn about you the same way that everybody else does. So,
Yeah.
kind of starting there, I know you have a crazy story.
I do.
So let's kind of give the people, before we dive deep into that crazy story, kind of let them know who you are and kind of
Yeah.
where you're from and everything.
Yeah. So Angelica Robles, former undercover agent, Forbes published, best-selling author, motivational speaker, creator of Lifestyle Media Group. I'm also the host of Untying Knots, which is a podcast I started following my high risk divorce, and then I started a dating show called Intent to Love to compete with Pop the Balloon.
See, now I gotta watch that because
Yes.
sometimes I ain't gonna lie, I be binge watching Pot of Balloon just because it's funny.
Well, Pop
Intent
the
to
Balloon.
Love, we gotta watch
Yeah,
that. Remember
Intent
that.
to Love, because we switch it up. Like in Pop the Balloon, you come out and they pop you because we don't like your shoes. Intent to Love, we pop you because you got 3 baby mamas. So
Now I was gonna check that out.
yeah,
So yes, you had a very high publicized marriage and
divorce. Yeah.
right? So let's talk about that and kind of give the backstory on that because I know that in itself is
It's
crazy.
Yeah. So in 2020, I was approached by a publishing company called Hasmark to write the story of my life. So I did undercover work for 2 years. And when I say undercover work, I'm talking before digital age. I'm talking in the bushes with the camera, watching you 24 hours. I'm talking like stakes. Like we didn't have, now I can watch you from your house.
Right.
I could be sitting at my house and I can hack into your digital devices. Back then, we were in the vans with the old school cameras. We were driving with one hand and holding the camera with the other hand. So that's the undercover work I did. And then, of course, when we infiltrated and we were dressed up and being informants.
So when did you join the FBI?
I joined when I was 23. So this was like 2004.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. And then, can you talk much about?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about it. So I already knew that I wanted to work for the feds. So I went to Warren East High School, which was a rough city in the west side of Chicago, and Cicero, which is the Mexican hood. I was raised there, and when I was 15, I was dating my high school sweetheart. His sister was murdered, dismembered, and decapitated. It ended up being one of the worst crimes in Chicago history. He, was cartel stuff. He owed money. She went on a date with this guy. It was a first date. And they were after him, so she was at the wrong time, wrong place. And if you look up the transcripts, what he did to them was crazy. I mean, samurai swords, hung them upside down, drained their blood. It was a story that we just you can't process. I was 15 years old, and I think it emotionally, spiritually, and mentally messed me up so bad. I ended up in therapy.
Wow.
Because how do you process this?
Not at 15.
And she went missing for 2 weeks, and then they started finding body parts in all different sides of Chicago: north side, south side, east side, west side. And when they went to go bury her, they buried her in pieces. They never found her torso. So it was just like head and arms and legs. And it was very gruesome. And so I think being 15 and going through that trauma made me want to find out why people do this to other people. So I already knew I wanted to do forensic psychology. I already knew I wanted to go work for the feds and I wanted to be a profiler. So I always tell this to people, you don't go work for the feds because you watch Training Day. Something happens to you that then leads you to pick your career. And I always say I picked my career based on my pain because I was in so much pain that I wanted to heal from it. So that's how I ended up.
That's crazy. That's got to be that's a crazy story. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. I mean, if you look it up, it took me. So he ended up getting the death penalty. And in, I want to say 2004, 2006, the death penalty was abolished by the governor. Yeah. So he still sits on death row. So everybody that was on death row in Illinois still sits on death row because they abolished the death penalty. Wow. But he got the death penalty because of what he did to them.
That's crazy. And then so you start working for the feds, and then you started going undercover.
Yeah, so I wanted to be a profiler. So, in everything there, you got to earn your stripes.
Right.
The highest positions that they want to get, you always have to do what people don't want to do, which is undercover. It sounds cool, but it's not. It's the most dangerous job that you can have, almost like being a sniper. You got to earn your stripes to do that, right? And so as a woman, it was very difficult. And I always tell this story because I don't think people realize what undercover work surveillance is. Back then, we didn't have iPhones. Back then, it was really hard to find you and track you. So everything was done by pings. Everything was so analog, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And so, it was crazy. We would have the vans with the curtains and then the big camcorders, and we were just following you around. So I did that for 2 years. And then after that, I was transferred to Houston in 2008 to do human trafficking, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Yeah.
In the United States.
Yeah, and that's big. And then how did you end up in the relationship that led to marriage?
So I met my ex-husband in 2011, and I met him on Match.com. And he's really not my type. I was going for kind of like the safe guy. I was like, let me switch things up. And instead of going for the bad boy, let me go for the safe guy. Yeah, the safe guy. And then not being the safe guy.
I was about to say, that backfired.
Yeah. And it was a love story. We fell in love. And after 4 months, he put a ring on it. We were engaged for 2 years and we were married for 10. So, but during COVID, I was approached by Hasmark Publishing Company to write the story of my life because I had been on one podcast before talking about my undercover work. I had never spoken about it in public because it was something that I just kind of, when you work this type of field, you're afraid of judgment.
Naturally.
And you're afraid of what they may say. You're afraid of losing your job. So I knew that if I wrote my book and I wrote my truth in this book, and it's called Through These Brown Eyes, which is a rendition of my life through my brown eyes. Right. But in there, I talk about everything that I went through in the government, the bad, the good, the ugly, everything, the corruption and all that stuff. And so when I finished the transcript of my book, my ex-husband at the time read the transcript and he said, I didn't realize how much trauma you had gone through because it's not something that we discussed in our marriage. Right. But it was red flag number one. Whenever we got together, he said, we're only going to talk about from now forward. He never wanted to talk about his childhood, which obviously I ended up finding out that it was cartel filled. So he grew up in the cartel and he was involved in the cartel. And so how that came out was he read my transcript. At the time I was working at the DEA office. So I came home from an overnight shift and I had my gun on me. And he said, hey, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. And he said, I read your book or the transcript and I was triggered by it. You were telling your truth in the book, so I want to tell you my truth. So he's like, sit down. And he tells me that him and his family have been part of the Mexican cartel. So I'm sitting there and I go like this.
Right. You're like,
I was going to kill him. I was going to kill him and have the government cover it up. That's what went through my mind.
So at that minute, right? And then we'll unpack it. But like this is dope. I'm glad I didn't read too much into it because I'm like pot committed right now to the story. So at that moment, was that like a feeling of betrayal, I guess, almost?
100%. It was a feeling of betrayal and a feeling of selfishness because you could have had any other girl, but you married the Fed. You already knew that this is what.
But did he know though that you was the Fed?
Yeah. And the story gets deeper because the government.
Look, I'm sitting on the edge like, tell me
Yeah,
more.
listen, the government did a background check on him before we got married. So who dropped the ball? It wasn't me.
So how did they? No, because you got to do that to get your clearances and everything.
So I've had a top secret clearance since like 2006. So in my mind, I'm like, how did they miss this? But this is where everybody's like, how did she not know? She was involved. So as he's telling me this, I went like this because I was going to kill him. And then in a split second, I told myself, do what you do best. Calm down, separate wife from the interrogator that you are and interrogate him. So I let go of the gun and I said, tell me more. So for the next 2 hours, he tells me everything. And in that moment, it was the most authentic my husband had ever been in our 10 years that we were married.
He probably felt free.
And that's what he said. He said, I felt a big weight coming off my shoulders.
I could
And
see
he
that.
grew up in the cartel. So I understood a part of it. And I did have grace for him for a split second because I wanted to kill him. But in my mind, I said, did you not think this, how this was going to go for our kids, my career?
How many kids you guys have?
2. We have 2, a 10 and an 8-year-old.
That's crazy.
And they don't know what their father did yet. They know that daddy lied and mommy and daddy separated because daddy lied. But obviously when they get older, they're going to know the truth. The other thing that was crazy is he was doing financial crimes for the cartel. So it wasn't like there was drugs and money on the floorboards. It wasn't like people watch too much Netflix. So all of a sudden you hear cartel, you're thinking kilos, but they don't realize that it's organized crime. That
the cartel's it's a business.
It's a business,
especially in Texas.
Yes, you have lawyers, attorneys, you have accountants, you have literally crossing guards.
I tell people it's that's the gift and curse I think of growing up in Miami is very similar because of how Miami was created.
Yeah.
So you begin to. It sounds crazy, but it's not like you begin to normalize crime, but it's like, that's what these people do. And then this is their lawyer, and they have their own doctors. They have their own, it's an entire ecosystem.
Right. I mean, I have stories where the crossing guards and construction workers were hired to divert traffic or cause an accident so that the jobs could be done behind the scenes. Yeah. I mean, down to submarine drivers, military gets paid off. I mean, it is a whole thing.
It's different.
So he did grow up in the cartel in Houston. His father was moving drugs. One of the things he told me was that his father moved $1 million worth of drugs, and his uncle got caught, and his uncle was murdered, dismembered, and decapitated. So in my mind, I'm like, God, why is this like coming back around? Like, how is this this happened to my friend, and then this happened to his uncle, and then there was red flags during our marriage where I was like, why did both of his uncles get brutally murdered? And me as a Fed, I'm thinking like, things are not adding up here, And so when he finally told me, I said to him, I have to report this. And a lot of people will say she's not a ride or die. And I said, when you're a cartel wife, you choose that life. I didn't get a choice to choose it.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
That's crazy. Naturally your divorce is pretty messy.
I reported it. It took me 3 weeks to report it because I needed to process it.
100%.
And even then, the government was like, why did it take you 3 weeks? And I was just like, I had to process this.
You were married, 10 years at that point?
10 years. Yeah, but it was 3 weeks. So it took me 3 weeks to report it after he told me. So then I go under federal investigation for 7 weeks, naturally. Phones are tapped, accounts, everything. And then they find out that I was not involved. Oh. I get flown to the Pentagon. I'm now sitting on the other side of the interrogation table getting interrogated. And I'm sitting there like, y'all really going to ask me this? Because this is what I did. I was an interrogator. So long story short, they find out she didn't know. There was a call that I called my best friend, and I was like hysterically crying. Like, how did this happen? Yeah. And then the story goes deeper because the day of my wedding, I tried to call the wedding off because my intuition was something is up. And I went up to my friend and I told her, I need to call this wedding off. And she said, she was like, look at all these people. Look at all this. We spent a lot of money on this wedding. This was like a full-blown cartel Fed wedding. Like there was cartel members sitting with Feds at the same tables that we didn't even know. They didn't even know. It was wild. Like, you can't make this stuff up.
Dang, so that was a lot. So then you get divorced.
Well, they gave me an ultimatum. They said, you have two choices. You either get blacklisted or you divorce him. I had one of the fastest divorces in Texas history. He told me in February, we were divorced by July. It just happened quickly. And I said, I literally took the kids. We lived this lavish lifestyle. We had a mansion on 2 acres. Naturally, because we were both making money. So it wasn't like when I got into this marriage, it wasn't like, why does he have all this money? He's running a legitimate business. And so he business. Business is good. And who your clients are is never who people think they are. You know, in Texas and Houston, a lot of the cartel members own the buildings that these big oil and gas companies rent. You know, Chevron, Schlumberger, they rent from the owners of the buildings. They don't own the buildings.
Yeah, Texas is a wild place. When I bought my business there and I really started spending more time there, I really started to learn how crazy Texas really is. It's like, even the town that my business is in, like, it's literally like 4 families or 5 families that own the entire town.
Wow.
Like, they're like the original owners of the entire city. And like the city was split up in like quadrants, and it's like, this is the Smiths and this is the, like, it's literally.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's only stuff that you see in books, but no, it's still like that in 2026. Like, Texas is a wild place.
It's a wild place.
And
there's tiny little towns that look like horror movies, literally.
Yeah,
and you're just like, do people really live here?
Oh, and they do. It's a wild place.
Yeah.
So you made it through that situation, and then we were talking before, and it's crazy that, you know, people know government cheese is based around government contracting, and you are actively still involved in government contracting.
I am.
So can you talk about how that happened?
So I got blacklisted. The reason why I got blacklisted is I divorced him, but I still published my book. And my book was done, remember? So I added another chapter to the book, which was what was transcending.
Right, naturally.
Naturally, I would have to add it in there. I remember the CEO of Hastmark telling me, she said, Angelica, you're under federal investigation. Don't do it. And I said, what else do I have to lose? This is my life. This is what's happening now. So I added it in. And I decided to publish the book. And the timeline, you know, government, the timeline is just impeccable. So I published the book in November of 2021. December of 21, I get suspended. January of 22, I get blacklisted. So they blacklisted me. They said reporting concerns. I've been doing this for 20 years. There's nothing wrong with my reports. But they had to say something to blacklist me. And I've been blacklisted since then with DOD.
But you can go back and try to get on.
Well, because I was so good at what I do, I ended up, a year later, I ended up getting picked up by DHS. And then I was doing some contracts with CIA. And then I think, you know, when you get blacklisted, you're like, oh my God, I'm shunned for the government. But it was just one agency. But people don't know that.
So your government contracting work, which I didn't even know you were a government contractor before this. So this is actually it's really dope. How's your experience been in being a government contractor? And what would you say about it and kind of tell people about the whole thing? Because people know that, like, I do it.
Yeah.
And they hear about it and they think it's one thing. They don't understand that government contracting
it's so much money. There's so much money out there. And I don't think people realize that it's actually easier to get than not get. Yeah. If you have all your ducks in a row and you know what you're doing and you're a master of your craft, it's like when you're in the military and you come out the military, you can get government contracts with your military skills, all your skills that you have. So, you know, in government, after 20 years, you can retire, just like in the military. So if you go in at your 20s, you're retiring at 40. Yeah. So what they do is they all retire, they get a pension, and then they go back as contractors. Yeah. And then you end up realizing that you're making more money as a contractor than you were a full-timer. I remember when I was in my 20s, all the older 40-year-olds, because I'm 43 now, they were like, oh, we're so excited about this pay raise that they're about to get because government contracts pay really well.
Yeah, because so the way we do, and for those of you guys that are out there, the way multiples work in human capital, which is what you're doing when you're doing yourself, is there are 2, 3, sometimes 4 multiples on the salary based on your wrap rate. So that means that if, just for easy numbers' sake, if the wrap rate is 2.5 and somebody's typical salary is $100 an hour, you're billing the government $250 an hour. And so if you're doing that job yourself as the actual contractor, you're getting $250 an hour as opposed to $100 an hour.
100%.
A lot of people don't, they sleep on it. And I try to tell them, like, man, it's not, like you said, it's not hard. If you have your ducks in a row, it's not hard to get government contracts.
Yeah, if you have everything set up the way that they want it to have, And the crazy thing is I thought my life was over, right?
Wow.
But one of the biggest things that sticks with me is I told him, I said, I'm not going to take anything. I'm not going to take the house. I'm not going to take anything. I'm not going to get into your offshore accounts that he had. But I made him sign a piece of paper. And that piece of paper was a contract saying that everything that came off my book, he had no rights to. And that he was allowing me to tell his story in my book. He signed it and was like, your stupid little book. Well, my stupid little book hit bestseller. And I got catapulted into a whole nother realm. Because now I was a bestseller. I was selling books. I did the Audible. Then I was getting asked to come speak on stages. So I became a motivational speaker. And what I tell people is when you're in a relationship where you're not being poured into, your growth is stumped. And as soon as I left this marriage, my entire life changed. Completely changed.
That's crazy. Is your ex-husband still in jail?
No, he never went to jail. They never did an investigation on him.
That's crazy work.
Yeah, but here's why. Because there was no evidence. It was all hearsay. And they had to cover the fact that they did a background check. So who dropped the ball?
God bless America.
Right. I mean, right? Look who we have in office.
That's crazy work. So
he was never investigated. Never investigated. In fact, his career blew up because of my book.
That's crazy.
But what a lot of people don't realize, it's like Shark on Wall Street. Power and money is what everybody chases. And it doesn't matter if it's illegal or illegal.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
I'm literally speechless. I think it's the first time I've ever been speechless.
So it's funny because everybody says I'm the real Angela from Power.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But they never investigated, because if they investigated, then they had to open their records up.
Oh, you actually are the real Angela from Power.
Yeah.
I just realized it.
I know. Shout out to 50 Cent. He knows the story.
Hey, yo, 50. I'll put it together, but I need 5%. 50, we need a check because she the real Angela, so we're going to figure this
50
out.
50 Cent is aware. He knows.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure he does. Hey, we need to get her a check.
Right.
3%. I don't even need 5%. Okay, all right,
I
cool.
got you.
All right, cool. We locked in. That's crazy. So let's kind of jump and fast forward. All right, so you put the book out. Now you're doing your government contracts. Now I wanted to touch on a couple things that kind of lead into the next piece of story. So now you essentially have a media company.
I started a media company with my business partner, Lyndon Jones. We met a week before I filed for divorce. We met and we kind of clicked. And we thought to ourselves, man, let's start a podcast based on my story. And it's called Untying Knots. And it was talking about the glow up of divorce. Because divorce is frowned upon. It's looked upon as your life is over. But for us, him and I, it was a glow up. Because I became this woman, this businesswoman. I became a best-selling author. I was just on the cover of Forbes last month, been on Forbes 3 times with Alex Hermasi. So in my mind, I was like, if I never took this risk and wrote my book and said my truth and got blacklisted, I would not be here. So when people ask me, do you regret anything? I say no, because this is how the story was supposed to go. Yeah,
it's all part of your story. And then now you got a TV show, let's call it.
So I'm in the process. I did get signed. I was signed under a movie house to do a movie. And then that contract ran out. So now I'm a free agent. So now I am going to be doing a micro series on my life story and possibly a film. And I'm going to be the executive producer on it because I want to have all of my, creative power for it.
I think that's
Selena Gomez, I want her to play me.
That would be dope.
Yeah.
I mean, it would, also too.
And Selena Gomez is aware of me as well.
If you got Angela from Power to play, that would really be like.
She would have to play the older version because, there's the younger version of me in high school. What is it? Jennifer Ortega. She's the girl from that played Wednesday. She would be a good younger version of me.
Well, my daughter's like, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That would be
But the crazy thing is you can't make this stuff up. Like, you can't make this story up. I lived it. And if you go
I think a
online,
series though. I think
series, a limited series.
I
Yeah.
think a series would be better than the movie because I would be pot committed to like watching. And I'm not a TV or a series type of guy, but I think a series would be good. Like telling, oh wow,
Yeah.
now you got me. I'm gonna be waiting around, be texting you like, yo, when you dropping that series, I need
Yeah,
that.
like I said, I'm in the process of putting it all together. I had started a podcast with the original Rick Ross, and it was called The Fed and the Felon. And we were talking about how me and him actually have more in common than anything because
Really?
he was in the streets, but I came from the streets. I just ended up as a Fed because of what I experienced in the streets, which was my friend being murdered. And so for me, it's different because I feel like I grew up in the streets of Chicago and I became a Fed. So I understood the street smart and I understood the book smart. So it's like I could mold into both worlds. And then this is crazy. This is another crazy story. The Flores twins, I'm good friends with them because we grew up in the same neighborhood. So I don't know if you know about the Flores twins. The Flores twins were the ones who talked about or pretty much gave up El Chapo.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I remember like 2 years ago, I get a call and it's Jay Flores. And he's like, "What's up?" And I was like, "I spent so many years chasing you just so you can call me on the phone." And me and Jay Flores are really good friends now. Now they're signed with 50 Cent.
That's crazy, yo. You gotta.
It's crazy. I'm telling you, can't make this up. And then last year, I get a call from Rene Enriquez, who is the Mexican mafia assassin and spent 38 years in prison. And he says, "I've been watching you from prison." He had been let out from LA, the prison over there, the federal penitentiary. And we did a podcast together. And he's like, "I want you to interrogate me because people don't believe that you're really good at what you do." And so I did, and I made him cry during the interrogation.
Yeah.
And I think that people don't understand when you've been through so much trauma and you've been working and you become a master of your craft, it's like clockwork. You know how to ask the questions, you know how to engage somebody, you know how to extract information out of them, but it always goes back to that little kid in their childhood and the trauma that they went through.
Do you think that all of your experiences make you a better podcast host now?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Better podcast host, better communicator, and then of course the dating show because you start asking the questions very strategically.
Tell me about the dating show.
So the dating show, okay, so Untying Knots came from my story. We hit 30 million views the first year. I mean, it just popped with Untying Knots. So then we decided we were going to compete with Pop the Balloon, and we wanted to do a rendition of it, but we wanted to have intentional dating and emotional intelligence involved in it. Wow. So we got buzzers, and then we did a whole casting. And we had guys and girls that wanted, or women and men that wanted to do intentional dating. And the kind of conversations we were having were deep. It was like, "Hey, tell us about your childhood trauma. And tell us about if we talk to your ex, what would they say about you?" And I mean, the crazy stories that we got, one guy was like, "My girlfriend showed up with a gun." Another story was the Ring camera caught the girlfriend cheating with the guy's best friend inside their house while he was at work.
How is so I just want to come sit there and just watch an episode.
Yeah.
Live. I think those are just very funny.
Yeah, they're very funny, but not just that. So imagine when you go out on a first date. So the whole thing about Intent to Love is we wanted to create a dating experience, changing the dynamic of the dating culture where you go out and you're like, "What's your favorite color? What do you like to do? What do you do for work?" Now, because we send the couples out on dates and then we film the dates and then the dates go on Patreon. So we had a deal with James Harden at 13, which was his restaurant in Houston. We would send the couples over to 13 and we would film the dates. So now our dates, we're having conversations about, "Hey, tell me about your childhood trauma," because the conversation had already started from the show. So the conversations were totally different. And you're cutting off 3 months of you trying to get to know this person. So you're already like 3 months in because of the depth of the conversations that we were having.
Speaking of dating, I know we were talking earlier about just talking about touching on different subjects. Has it been more difficult for you to date
Yes.
based on everything that you went through?
100%. So I've been single for 5 years. I've had two situationships within the 5 years. But I think with me is there's a lot of intimidation and they're just scared,
I
you
mean,
know?
well, fear
Yeah.
naturally. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's probably a little bit of fear there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be a.
It's definitely been more difficult, but also with success,
No,
more
that's
money,
not
more
true.
problems. Yeah. And then you're at different levels now. So
What you think? What you think's tougher? Is it the fear from your previous situation, or the having the success and being who you are at
yeah.
43 years old as a female? Is it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
because
think it's a combination of both.
right.
I think it starts with, damn, is the ex going to come after me? I think it starts with that.
Yeah.
And then once they realize no, because it's been 5 years, and we have a great relationship, by the way. We have a better relationship as co-parents and being divorces than when we were together.
He probably feels honestly like he probably feels super free.
Yeah, he definitely does, for sure. And then we don't have nothing to argue about anymore because, time passes and you just deal with the kids. So, but I think a lot of the guys that try to date me, they get intimidated right by the success, but also because it's very difficult because I travel a lot. I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. I'm not really stationary, right? And it's very difficult. But it has been difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
Nah, 2026 is tough.
Yeah.
The digital age makes it very tough to live life.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And then of course, you have social media. So it's like I think people feel that they have a lot of options or that they have like, all this access to people. But they don't understand that likes and follows and little heart emojis and fire emojis is nothing. It's really like low effort attention. But a lot of people are I feel like in the dating culture right now, people are addicted to instant gratification and validation. And it's actually messing us up more mentally than anything because we feel that we have access to people that before we wouldn't have access to.
so you just brought up some. I got a question,
Yeah.
right? And it's something. It's a topic that's been out there, right?
Yeah.
So like, you're a motivational speaker
I
now,
am.
right? And you have a lot of knowledge on the dating culture, right? What's your feeling on people like what's the lady who they be talking about, Cheyenne, and like people that are
Dr.
like
Bryant?
yeah, like people that are like talking about like the psychology of dating
Yeah.
and having degrees versus not.
Yeah.
What you think?
This
Because I
is
feel
what
like can't nobody
yeah.
really tell you nothing about certain situations because ain't nobody out there been what you've been through.
Right. Thank you. And this is what I'll say. Okay, degree or not degree, how can you speak on marriage if you've never been married?
Right.
How can you speak on being a parenting, if you've never been a parent?
Right.
So, you can't ask somebody, oh, how was war? I never been to war.
Right.
So that's my take on it. I said, so, I can speak on divorce because I was married for 10 years. I can speak on government contracting. I can speak on being a Fed and being undercover. I can speak on it because I experienced it. But there's no amount of books and research and studies that you can do that will ever equate to experience. And you know this, because when you have that experience, nobody can take that away from you.
Nah, and you still going through it every day because now with the show, with the dating show, with the podcast, like you're constantly interacting. It was I just seen people arguing about that like last week. They're like going off, well, she ain't really got a degree. She really do got a degree. What does she know? Like, and I'm like,
I think she's built a brand for herself. I think it's more branding than anything because, she's built a platform for herself. And I did some research. She actually branded the name Dr. Bryant. She what is it called? She got it trademarked. She got it trademarked. If you look it up, she trademarked her name.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a smart young lady.
It's
Like,
just, smart move, right?
yeah, no, she knew what she was doing for sure.
I mean, was that other lady, Sadia? She'd be out there talking crazy stuff too. But if people aren't talking about you, you're not doing things right.
right.
Yeah. You gotta have spectrum.
Yeah, it's crazy. I try not to like dig too deep into all of them. I try to keep my social media real light and playful. Cause some of the stuff I be going down these rabbit holes, I be like, dang. Then I find myself pot committed in all of this, and I be like, yeah, I gotta pull myself out of this.
Yeah.
This shit
Yeah.
going left real
A
fast.
lot of people have a lot of things to say about Shannon Sharp. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about Cam, but they're out there speaking their mind and saying what other people don't want to say.
Yeah.
And it's their platform. And rightfully so. Say whatever you got to say. Whether you agree with it or not, they're out there sharing it.
I think though that for people of our age, I'm 44, you're 43. Like I think our generation needs to learn or embrace sharing more,
Yeah.
because like we come from a generation where we didn't talk, especially like men.
Yeah.
Like we come from a generation where men don't show emotion, men don't have feelings, men you just shut
Yeah.
up and grind it out, you work, you do it. Like so, and then women come from a generation where as a woman you really just chill, play your position, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, people got on you like, oh, she ain't a writer, like all those type of things. That's just the generation that we come from. But I think our generation has so much experience.
Yeah.
If we embrace this new culture and we do it, like we could really do some good. So like I do love when I see people like Shannon and all of them that are getting out here talking, telling our story, telling our experiences, because our generation was raised, for lack of a term, we were honestly raised kind of fucked up, and we just thugged it out. Because
Yeah,
like
we really did.
so many things that were the norm in our generation, later we found out like, yeah, that shit ain't normal. That shit ain't cool.
Yeah. Raising yourself and coming home and your parents are working
Yeah,
and
yeah,
feeding yourself sandwiches
yeah. Who would have knew? Like they put parents in jail for that
for
now.
that. Yeah. We were, yeah,
That was just our life.
Yeah. That's what I tell my kids. I'm like, I get to wake you up every morning and take you to school.
Yeah.
I think, I said, we wouldn't see our parents till like 10 o'clock at night. We had to feed ourselves. We had to bathe ourselves. We had to take ourselves to school. Our parents were not at soccer practice. They were
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, like I got. You see, I got my kids here with me now. Like this type of shit, like nah, bro. Like not when I was growing up. Like my daughter, she starts driving this year. I was driving at 15, not because I wanted to, it's because I didn't have a
had to.
choice. Like
Yeah,
my
you
mom was
had
like,
to.
"You got to take your brother to school. You got to do all your practices, everything."
Yeah. And I don't got time. I got to
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
that was just. It just is what it was, and so I think all those experiences, like our generation, really has to get out there and talk about.
Yeah. We were out in the dark, the street lights. Now you can't have the kids out. It's predators are going to take them.
Yeah, it's crazy. I fuck with it. I'm glad. I think I not think. I'm definitely gonna tap more into all the different stuff that you got going on and really see about that. I'm definitely pot committed on this series coming
Yeah.
out because I got to see. We
Yeah.
got to make that
That's
happen.
right.
Because all of this stuff, I think your story is just amazing. I think just telling it is gonna be so dope because I'm sure there's more women out there that have dealt with
Yeah.
or are dealing with the same thing.
You'd be surprised. I get so many women that sign up for my one-on-ones. I just had a lady from was it Santa Barbara or San Bernardino? She was just indicted because her and her significant other were both cops, and he got caught working for the cartel, and so they were trying to get her down, but her charges were dropped. And she called me and she says, "How do I share my story?" She was a cop, and they pretty much falsified that she had been involved.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and she called me, and I talked to her for an hour. When I was in San Diego, I was doing a talk over there, and she called me, and she's like, "Man, they dropped the charges. There was no evidence." And I said, "Well, now it's time to tell your story."
That's the beautiful part about the time that we're in, is being able to tell your story and
Yeah.
being able to get it out there.
Yeah, and I say this, and I will always say this: what's holding you back is fear of judgment. Because we
100%.
fear what other people are thinking about us, and we fear what everybody's going to say. When I published my book, I knew that there was a possibility I was going to get blacklisted, but then I didn't realize what was on the other side.
Right.
Right. And so in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm so glad that I did this, because now I could say everything in my book was a rendition and a memoir of how I experienced my life. And in the book, I talk about, incest in my family. I talk about how my grandfather tried to rape his granddaughters. I talk about how, we talked about molestation. I talk about things that people don't want to talk about in the Black and brown culture. How we were brought up, our uncles would get drunk and they would get in fights, and then everything would get slipped under the rug, and then the next week everything was fine,
And do it all over again.
and then do it all over again. And it was this toxic cycle, and us as children were sitting there and we're thinking, this is how they operate.
Yes,
this
you
is
normalize it.
this is normal. And then therapy is, you're crazy.
Yeah,
You
bro,
go
I
to
just-
therapy, you're crazy. What's wrong with you?
I just went to therapy for the first time 2 years ago. It's like a 42-year-old man. That's the first time.
And wasn't it the best experience?
It was cool because it was, an ability to really get to open up, be myself, and just tell my truth and not have that fear of judgment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it was tough. And for a while, I didn't couldn't tell people that I was going. I felt like, nah, they're gonna think I'm crazy for going to sit on the
Yeah.
couch with a shrink.
Well, I just did a show with Stevie Baggs Jr. He's ex
Oh yeah,
NFL player. We have a tour going on. We were in Atlanta, and I told him, I said, everybody will flex their pictures at the gym, but go ahead and post a picture of you at the therapist's office. And how about that flex? But nobody's gonna do that because what are they gonna say? They're gonna say I'm crazy. But nobody gets their flowers for taking care of their mental health and their mental space because we all went through trauma. We all did, especially me. And so if you could take your trauma and turn it into triumph, you can build a business.
That's a bar right there. Take your tragedy. Yeah.
You could build
Take your
a
trauma,
business
turn into triumph.
because I
like
did.
that.
My pain got turned into a whole empire.
Damn, that's crazy. Before we get out of here, let everybody know where they can find you so they can tap in with you.
So I have my website is the Angelica Robles Official. You can find me on Instagram at the Angelica Robles. I'm easy to find. And then the book is called Through These Brown Eyes. You get on Amazon, all book platforms, and then as well in Audible if you want to hear me read the story to you.
Oh, last thing. Can I get a cameo in the series? I need.
Of course.
Okay,
Yes,
all right, cool.
we got you. The kids too.
All right, bet. All right, cool. We good. We good. Well, Angelica, thank you again for coming down. I appreciate you spending time, giving me a glimpse into your life.
Yes.
I truly appreciate it. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. Until next time, it's the Winners Win Podcast. I'm Kevin Jennings. Peace.